This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 144 of the Healthy Critters Radio on the Horse Radio Network. Healthy Critters Radio is brought to you by Biostar US. Find them online at biostarus.com.
And coming up on today's Healthy Critters Without Tigger episode, we are going to weigh in on body clipping your horse. We're going to have a chat with Tori Anello about golden retrievers, and then we are going to tackle a really tough topic. Does your horse's tack say something about your fashion sense? I'm not Tigger.
And I'm certainly Pati.
And I am Coach Jen. And you may have noticed we are without Tigger this afternoon, so we don't have the rudder.
We don't.
We don't. So this is going to be a little bit of a free-for-all. We're going to dumb it down a little bit because we also don't have the brains of the outfit with us today.
No, we could make some stuff up, but I feel like Tigger would check into it and then yell at us. So let's not do that.
We're going to keep it light and fluffy today.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, light and fluffy, the easy stuff. Although the chat we're going to have with Tori coming up is going to be fun because it's light and fluffy, but she does some really awesome and important work with those golden retrievers. So we'll get a little bit serious kind of in the middle.
Perfect. But we're also going to be talking about puppies. So, I mean, let's face it.
Can't go wrong.
They're fluffy.
They're fluffy.
They're fluffy.
They're fluffy. There's nothing better than puppy breath.
I know. Oh, I know. That's true.
That's true.
So true.
So on today's chit chat, before we get to talk to Tori, we are going to talk about clipping because this episode is coming out in October of 2021. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening to this show in 2025, welcome to the past.
Right.
But we're going to talk about clipping. Now, you are a dressage competitor. Your horses compete in the wintertime in Florida. At least some of them do. So where do you and your program fall in the clipping spectrum?
Well, it's funny because, I've been a trainer most of my adult life and living in different parts of the country. It's so weird how I've evolved and how, people evolve and they figure stuff out. But I obviously clip because I work my horses, anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes every single day. I live in Texas, in the northern part of Texas now. So we have seasons. So like today it was 70 degrees and it's, 75 degrees. And so it gets chilly at night. So, when they grow their coat, you end up, obviously dealing with having to cool them out. And of course I get the privilege of being able to ride during the day. So I have a little bit more leeway time to get them dried and whatnot. But I definitely clip. But what I really have always done is once it starts to get the days shorter is I always would put blankets on to help the coat not get as full, but I'm not going to lie, this year, I've just been lazy. I've been really lazy.
Well, 2021 is a special year, as was 2020. And if you're listening to this in 2025, just go back and Google it. You'll see why. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I will clip them because we'll leave for Florida right at the end of December. But, I have a young horse that I love to turn out at night because then I know he's out all night, which is really good for him. And he likes to play and he comes in and he gets a nap in the morning and he gets ridden. So, I just don't necessarily, I don't know. I just wasn't, I'm so happy it's a little bit cooler. I don't like really cold weather, but I don't know. I just wanted them all to grow a coat, and I'm sure the groom that works for us is going to hate me for it because they're going to have to flip forward.
Now, when you body clip horses, do they all get the same hairdo, or does it vary according to the horse's work schedule and the like?
Well, normally I always give everybody the same clip. Now, in years prior, like if I wasn't going to Florida, and I wasn't worrying about showing through the winter, because we, in Texas, we show all year. I mean, you just go south a little bit and you can go to Houston and show anytime you want.
Mm-hmm.
So I would normally do a full body clip, but if I'm not going to show, I'll just do a trace clip, because honest and truly, I mean, the big thing for me always is making sure that you get the hair dry, so that if you put them back outside, or, you know, they're not going to have whatever, that their muscles are protected. So, so if I wasn't going anywhere and not showing, I would just do a trace clip, or I would do a full body clip, leave their head and leave their legs and leave a little spot on their back. But what I think I'll do this year is just let them be fuzzy, and before we go to Florida, clip them.
Now, a lot of your horses are Baroque, are they not?
Actually, I don't have any of them
really
right now. I don't have any. No, I have all warm bloods right now.
Really?
And I do, and one very incredibly special Appaloosa gelding that a friend of mine owns, that I showed through I1.
So is your herd as a rule pretty fuzzy, or do they tend to have lighter coats?
Yes, it depends. Yeah, I have the owner of the barn has an older Hanoverian gelding that definitely gets a little bit. She has two of them, that one's 20 and one's 15. So we've been clipping him throughout the year. One has actually cushion. So I'm always clipping him. Mm-hmm. And when I say me, I mean the wonderful girl that works for us. But I would say my young guy, and this is interesting too, is that I have found when you bring your horses to Florida, if you do it a couple years in a row, they tend to not grow as much coat because they're obviously in warmer weather. So I don't know what's the reasoning behind that. I was kind of hoping that would happen with the ones we brought to Florida from last year. That's not. They're all really kind of fuzzy really quickly. So, but for the most part, I would say I've got a couple that are super fuzzy, and then a couple that are sort of middle of the road fuzzy.
Middle of the road fuzzy. And what are your clippers of choice? Do you use the old-fashioned giant 55-pound Osters, or do you have some of those higher tech, wide-bladed, lightweight ones? So
it's funny. When I would do the clipping, I would get sheep shearers, and I would get battery-operated ones, because they really, you could do a horse almost, I'm going to say, in an hour. I'm sure it was an hour and a half. The girl that does them now, the woman who owns the barn, Trina, went to this clipper store here, because we are in the reigning capital of the world. And so it's big time horse country. And so there's a clipper store, and when she went to the store, there a woman who actually does competitions in clipping horses suggested this one pair of clippers, and they're smaller, they're wide blades, but they're smaller handheld. They are a cord. I think there's some form of Oster or oyster, however you say it. But they have been awesome. Like, they leave no lines. And, and obviously when you clip, you get better and better at it. I don't know if you clip your own horses or not, but that's one of the few things in the world that I can tell you, honestly, I despise doing.
I do clip my own horses, but I don't get much better at it.
Okay.
I still end up with a lot of lines. I get in a rush. I get about a third of the way through and I'm going, okay, I'm over this. Just let's get it done. And I go too fast and that kind of thing.
You do the whole horse or just body clip?
It varies a great deal on whether or not the horse is going to be getting worked hard and how much hair they have. I live in Central Florida year round. Right. So autumn can be a little tough. If you work your horse in the autumn months, September, October, November, and you have a fuzzy one, you'd better clip all the hair off, because it's still in the upper 80s most of the time. So just shave it all off and get it over with. But if you have a horse with a lighter coat, which is what my thoroughbred has, he gets gently fuzzy. It's really not hardly at all a winter coat. I don't clip him at all until February, because it's not all going to fall out before he starts to sweat in the spring. So what I end up with is a horse that can be naked up until I clip him in February, and then he has to wear a blanket usually in February and March, and that's it. By the time April rolls around, even clipped, he doesn't need a blanket on. But I usually also give him a trace clip That way it's a CYA thing. And if we have a little cold snap where it gets in the 40s, he's okay with a light blanket. I don't have to worry about it. And he's not really super fuzzy. So even if I work him hard in warmer weather, a trace clip does the trick versus the pony. We have a Hackney pony. His hair, we measured it. We measured it one year when we shaved it off. 3.5 inches long.
Oh my gosh.
And in the wintertime, he's a bay with 4 white socks. Each sock comes halfway up the cannon. It's very regular. But in the winter, I forget what they call it. I want to say it starts with an A, and I can't remember the name of the word. But some bay horses in the wintertime, when they get their winter coat, regardless of its length, the bottom of their belly, sometimes their elbows, will get light brown, almost tan. And then their muzzle gets tan. Well, he has that. So in the wintertime, when his winter coat comes in, his hooves and his pasterns disappear completely because the hair is so long. He looks like a little draft pony. And it's brown hair because the brown hair is where normally he would have black socks. But the hairs are so long, they cover up the white that's down at the bottom.
Okay, that's hysterical.
It is hysterical. And I love when I clip him because I want to just leave the socks there, so he has these little fluffs, so he looks like a 1970s person wearing what were those called?
Like
leg warmers. Looks like he's wearing leg warmers.
Yeah. Oh, that's hysterical. That's hysterical. Now I'm going to be really curious what the name of what that is when they're different colors like that, because I've had horses like that and I've never really thought anything about it. But I didn't realize that's cool. I can't believe his hair gets 3 inches long. That's crazy.
It is crazy. And it's Pangare, Pangare, I think is what it is. Okay. I did a Google, not because I remembered people. Don't think otherwise. When the bottom of their belly and their muzzle gets that kind of light brown, I think it's Pangare. I just remembered that from a conversation we had with a geneticist one time. It was fascinating. But
that's
anyhow,
pretty cool.
Cool. So one more clipping question.
Yeah.
Your program, because everybody has different programs that they use as far as clipping. Do you and does the dressage community in general clip fetlocks and coronets and ears, things like that? Again,
this is something I've never done the inner part of the ear ever. I've always been an advocate of leaving their muzzle. I always left the
whiskers.
Why can't I think of it?
Whiskers.
The whiskers. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's not allowed to clip anymore. Listen up, folks. Not allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's not allowed to clip anymore. And I had actually stopped doing it probably about 5 or 6 years ago. Because I just felt like it was kind of silly. And I mean, years ago, it was so important that everything was clean. I mean, every Monday I had a shave the side of the tail day, and I would clip their legs every Monday. I've really gotten away from that as I've gotten older. Because I also feel like we're taking a lot of the natural protectants away from the horses. And so I had one horse that years ago had white legs and had got cellulitis. And I was like, the vet said, stop clipping his legs. Let his body try to protect itself. And, you got to figure longer, denser hair is going to be better protection than shaved off hair. Good point. Yeah. So I have now. I mean, when we clip them for the season when we go to Florida, I do everything, but I will never do inside their ears because. And some of my clients actually don't even clip their heads, and I didn't know it until you get up close to them. Now I have my young horse is almost black. So when you clip him, there's no way you can not do his head because it would be too obvious. Mm-hmm. But some people don't do their heads. So.
When you body clip them. Yeah. Well, and back in the day, whenever we gave the horses a haircut, the face it was always part of it unless they got a trace clip, because then it stopped right about the jowl. But otherwise, the whole head got clipped. And then late in life, it wasn't until many, many years later, I discovered I don't know what you call it, but the clip stops at a line that goes from the base of their ear to the corner of their mouth. So you only clip the bottom part of their head, which I love because that's the easier, fuzzier part to clean. And that gets sweaty and skanky. So I'm cool with that. I love the half face look. I like that. Yeah. And if you put a bridle on them that's really wide, you can't tell how crooked the line is. Just saying.
That's a very good point. And I know there's got to be I know there's tons of different types of clips, and you can obviously Google that. And I'm sure there's stuff on Instagram.
It's artistic
Pinterest
expression nowadays. It's not just clipping the horse anymore. It's artistic expression.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that gets into a whole other subject, which is for another time. But you know how you can leave stuff on the rump pattern stuff, which I think are kind of cute. One clinic that I teach, the girl shows up, and every time I come, she does something different, like stars or squares or whatever. So she's always trying to outdo people, but I think it's funny in a good way. So
I'm going to start telling people that all those lines that my horse has are on purpose. I was doing decorations. Those aren't lines.
Yeah. Just look it up. I mean, it's the new fashion craze. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it too. I think it's a great idea.
There we go.
So we have a wonderful guest today, Tori Anello, who is a golden retriever breeder and first and foremost a wonderful family friend. She's a very good friend of my daughter Hannah, and that's how I originally met her. And of course, she always has a golden retriever with her. And we just wanted to talk to Tori Anello about their breeding program and find out a little bit about why they do it and how they do it. So welcome, Tori. Thank you for doing this.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to talk about our program and also talk about the breed.
Well, I have had many dogs, as Tori has heard through family stories. It's the one breed I've actually never had. And I have been so fascinated by all of the stuff that you guys are doing. So first, let's talk about the website name is agoldenforyou2.com, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, and you do this with your brother and your mother as well. But just tell me, how did you guys get into breeding? How did it all start?
So it began with my mom. So my mom actually used to show chows, and that was when I was very little and before I was even born. So she used to show them, and she used to breed them also. So then when as she went to kind of be at home with her kids a little bit more, she stopped showing and kind of wanted to do more of a family-friendly breed. Chows are incredible dogs, but we know they can be a little testier than Goldens. So so she kind of moved over to Goldens and for just the love of the breed. And that was when I was, I was 8 when she got her first golden retriever that she was going to start breeding with. So it's been really fun to know the breed and to grow up with them because they are just such a loving breed, and they're just such great family dogs. And I think that makes me, I never have to worry. Patti has met my Lucy quite a few times, and I never have to worry about her being aggressive or anything like that. So I'm always conscious and watching her, of course, but I just don't have to worry about her. She's just so loving, and I love that about the breed.
How do you end up picking how you breed and whatnot? And you have, I know you have some females, of course, I've met Lucy, and you also have a breeding male, correct?
Yes, we do. So we actually have one male. We have 2 males. One that lives with my brother Patrick, and then one that lives with my mom. And then we have collectively we have 4 females that are of breeding age. So we also will then kind of go out and find stud dogs sometimes. So it's all about finding what is the proper match for your dog. So you want to look at what between health testing and things like that, you kind of want to look at who is a better match for your dog before you kind of make that choice. So sometimes the stud that we own is not actually a good fit for the female that we have. So we end up going to an outside dog because of that.
And is that generally because of a health testing thing? Because I know that's a very big deal in making sure that you are producing top quality puppies. So what do you do in the health testing?
So for by the GRCA Code of Ethics, there are health tests that you should perform before you breed your dogs. So the ones the golden retrievers are known for dysplasia, so hip dysplasia and elbow dysplasia. So we test for hip dysplasia and by doing x-rays. So you can't do them before they're 2 years old. There are actually two different types of testing that you can do. One is via pin hip, and pin hip you can do as early as 6 months of age. But we have found that it's kind of best to wait until they're 2 because they're not fully developed at that point. So OFA is also another one. So with OFA, that is the official thing that you can't do until they're 2 years old. And so at 2 years old, we x-ray their hips and elbows at the same time. And we will get them certified. They give them a rating. So they'll say that they are, good, bad, fair, or poor, and also excellent is one also. So you kind of get that that rating and that ranking for your dog. So we don't breed anyone who is, we have bred fairs before, but only to an excellent hip dog if we were to do that. So they're still passing their hip test, but it kind of gives them a grading of how well they are in that. So that is one thing that we look at. Also for elbows, so we'll look for elbow dysplasia. Elbows is not the same. They don't do a grading for elbows. It's just a pass or a fail. And then also we do, they do a cardiologist, so a board certified cardiologist does an echo and we'll check for any heart conditions and as well as eyes. So the echo, if they do an advanced echo, it's only done once in their lifetime and it can be done after a year of age. But for eyes, it has to be repeated yearly. And hips and elbows are also just once in their life, but eyes have to be repeated every year.
So you're breeding males and females, they have to pass an eye examination every year.
Correct. Yes. The only time that we really kind of made some exceptions were COVID. Some eye clinics actually completely shut down. So as long as the dog had been eye tested before, if they were out of date by a couple of months, we would make an exception because of COVID. But for the most part, yes, everyone has to be up to date in order to be bred, and that also includes their DNA screening too. So we'll DNA screen them for common genetic diseases associated with Goldens, and that way we can pair them appropriately with a mate because you don't want to have an affected dog with an affected dog, so on and so forth. So you can breed clear to a carrier or so on and so forth.
So, tell me about placing puppies. Now I know that when we've talked before, you a lot of yours, and I'm probably going to say this wrong. They go as service dogs, right? Into there's a program that you guys deal with.
Yeah, so we have had programs that we work with that our dogs will go into service work. Sometimes it's the program is looking specifically for. They usually have someone that they have in mind, and they'll come out, they'll meet the puppies, they'll pick one. And then they'll bring whoever the puppy's for to come out and meet them and pick one. And we actually have on our website a review written by someone who got one of our puppies for service work, and he's done a great job.
Oh, that's great. That's yeah. So that must be. So is it hard to go through this? So for our listeners, they had 2 years ago, I don't even know how long it was, I was over to see some puppies, and they ended up keeping this one female who I named Blanche. So Blanche is my dog. So just at the litter. And so so placing the puppies, if people are interested in getting a puppy, obviously they go on the website, but because you generally, aren't the puppies normally always sold almost before the litter is even here? Because you have quite a waiting list, don't you?
We do, yes. But our goal really is that we don't want to bring puppies into the world without kind of having a home pretty much set up. Our goal is not to feed anything into shelters or anything like that by any means. So we make sure that we have people who have well thought out that they want a dog. We have interviewed with them. We ask all the questions about them being prepared to raise a golden, and financially, as well as grooming and all of the physical needs that the dog will need too. So we interview everybody with that, and we talk them over before we even place them on the waiting list. And then at that point, they wait until the dogs are born or the puppies are born, and then they will, and they get to pick so we kind of do a little bit of both, where people get to come pick their dog out, but we kind of guide them with that. It's kind of, a lot of breeders do personality matching to make sure you're getting a dog that's matched to you. And we kind of think that takes a little bit of the fun out of it. So we kind of let people come over and pick, but we kind of guide them in a direction for a puppy we think is the best match for them.
That's great. But is it hard? Is that part hard?
Oh gosh, it's so hard. It's kind of one of those things that having Lucy really helps me because I know that I've got my dog that's never going to leave. But the rewarding part is that people are getting our puppies that we know are going to love them and take care of them and give them amazing lives, and that's what's most important to us. And we see how much joy we're bringing families and their kids and stuff. It means a lot to be able to do that.
Oh, I'm sure it's rewarding. Okay, so I've got one last question. Talking about this the other day, and I think this is fascinating. Jen, you'll find this is really cool. So tell me a little bit about alfalfa pellets.
Oh, yeah. So I actually had joined this Facebook group about like puppy playpen setups, and I think it was like 2.5, 3 years ago now. And I was seeing that they had like their cover photo was someone who had the prettiest setup, they thought. So I ended up messaging this woman, and she was incredible and helpful. I was like, how do you keep it so clean? I cannot imagine keeping 11 puppies from being so messy. So she told me that she sets up a litter pan. And so she starts them at like 3 weeks of age. She'll fill half the litter box, or half their whelping box, with rabbit trays and alfalfa pellets. And she will then go ahead and wake the puppies up and transition them onto the pellets and teach them that that's where they go to the bathroom. So I started this. I was not super successful the very first time I did it because it's hard. But then I picked up on it, and like this year, we had a litter of 11 puppies that actually just went home this past weekend, and all of them were consistently using the litter box. So every week after 3 weeks old, about 4 weeks, we give them a little more space, and because puppies tend to not want to sleep where they go to the bathroom, so you have to do it in a really cramped area in the very beginning. And then as they get used to it, you kind of expand it more. And every week they get a little bit more space and a little bit more space, and they still continue to go to the bathroom in these alfalfa pans, and they smell like grass. So it helps them with their house training. Actually, we've had a lot of people tell us they think that they feel like the puppies are house trained when they get them home because they pick up on it so quickly, and it's kind of fun. And so we actually give some alfalfa pellets for people to take home and sprinkle in their yard to kind of help adjust the puppies.
I just think I have never heard that. I can't wait to tell Tigger this because Tigger breeds Australian Shepherds. And I just think it's the smartest thing. So literally you're getting a wonderful puppy and it's already starting the bridge to being house trained, which is a
That's
huge
brilliant.
thing.
I'm sorry, but it's brilliant, especially the alfalfa pellets part.
And alfalfa smells really good. So it takes away the smell of the puppies, and it really has worked out so well. I'm forever grateful to this woman that I got this advice from, and it's been really great for me. So, and it keeps them clean. I mean, they really stay super clean.
And it smells like natural, like you said, grass. Unlike people who use puppy pads, the puppy pads are scented to encourage the animal to go to the bathroom on them, but they don't smell like anything natural.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
They don't, and they're not even. They don't look like anything. And it's
right.
Like, at least with like alfalfa, it's green, so it's kind of. They get that idea, but like I know several puppies who started out on those puppy pads, and they have a really hard time adjusting to like then going out into the
transitioning.
Grass.
Yes,
they're like walking in these things that they're like, it's like, oh, what's this stuff on my legs? Like it feels weird to them because they're used to that solid pad. So it's worked out really well for us. We feel really blessed, and we've tried a couple other things. We tried the pine pellets that you pine bedding that you'd spray down in a horse stall. And someone had told us that works really well. And we tried that, but it was a little dusty and it just didn't mask the puppy smell. So it didn't mask the smell quite as well. So we went back to the alfalfa pellets, and it's worked really well for them. So it's great.
You use the alfalfa pellets made for bunny rabbits, right?
No, we use the equine ones.
You use the equine ones. Okay.
And it doesn't, in that way, if they were to eat some, so they don't typically eat a lot. They every now and then they'll like eat one and be like, oh, that tastes gross, and they kind of spit it out. But even if they were, it's okay for them to eat it as long as they're not eating like the whole pan of it, right?
Yeah. Yes, our greyhound loved to eat alfalfa pellets. She thought they were treats. But then
exactly.
She's a garbage gut. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Well,
it's been really fun.
This is what a cool. All of this is so neat, and I know a couple people that have gotten puppies from you and just love them and actually have been repeat customers, which is great. But if any of our listeners are ever interested in a golden retriever puppy, I couldn't recommend these guys more. I know the love that goes into it. And don't you even have a puppy camera now? Don't you do a puppy cam?
We do, yeah. On our website, we'll put a puppy cam up when we have a litter, and so you can, and it's on 24/7. So you can tune in and you can watch them, and then you also can watch our practices. You know, we have nothing to hide, so it kind of keeps it. We're on display too, so you can see how we treat them and love them while they're with us.
Well, thank you for doing this and giving us all this information. And if anybody's interested, it's a golden4u2.com. They're wonderful people, and they're just fabulously raised puppies. So thank you very much.
Hello.
Hi, Hetty. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
We're good. You know, we're Tiggerless today. It's only Jen and me. So we have no idea where this is going to go, right, Jen?
Well, you never know what's going to happen here on World Healthy Critters Radio with the world's only talking, podcasting Pomeranian.
Buckle up, folks.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, folks. Well, we've got an important question for you.
Yes.
Been a lot of veterinarian visits in our fur babies' lives of late. So I had a question for you. Veterinary visits, Are they a necessary evil, or do they offer potential for adventure? Where do you fall on that?
I'm not a fan of the veterinarian, to be honest. I always go, though. If my sister has to go, I go, because it is important that she be accompanied and protected by a loyal and devoted friend. But if I have to go, I act like a total psycho.
Oh.
So you're good
What
at
do you
moral
do?
support, but not so good at going yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Have you ever imagined a taxidermied squirrel with palsy? Because that is what I look like as a veterinarian.
So
With epilepsy, a lot of shaking.
So whenever you go to the vet, which is all too often because of your propensity for breaking and entering.
No, I don't go to the vet for things like that. We have Sanapine at home. And metronidazole. And last night I had myself, in a Imodium in the middle of the night. So I'm well covered for my various gastrointestinal needs. Don't need to go to the vet very often for that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. What are the what are the reasons you usually go to the vet? Why does the world's only podcasting Pomeranian ever have to go to the vet?
Mm-hmm.
Well, vaccinations are important. Even at my age, it's important to have your rabies shot. And we recently had a very unpleasant brush with kennel cough due to another veterinarian who tried to kill our sister mustard seed. So we all have to be vaccinated, and we have our yearly evaluations for wellness in which they admire our beautiful suits and make rude comments about any small festooning in our pantaloons. Festooning often being shaving or hay or whatever. If we travel to Canada, we have to have a special health certificate, so that's an issue.
So do you ever have to get your nails done at the vet, or do you have a nail trimmer come to your home?
The servant does it. She usually tries to amputate my leg while she's at it. Cow. Total cow.
Do you or any of your siblings ever wear nail polish?
No, we also don't festoon ourselves with glitter. I explained about the hay and the shavings. Were you slow?
Well, horses wear nail polish of sorts. They wear hoof polish, and it looks pretty darn snazzy. I think the Pomeranian would look pretty awesome with shiny little claws. Maybe try it. Maybe try it for the holidays and see.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll take that under consideration, but no.
That's really big of it. If you do decide to try some nail polish, you and your siblings, maybe make a little party of it, it would be so awesome if you posted pictures of it on your Facebook page, because you have your own Facebook page, don't you?
I do, and in fact, a beautiful photograph was taken of me today. That's going to go on my Facebook page.
What's your Facebook page called, so those of us who are your fans can find it?
Ask Hedwig.
There you go. Simple and easy to remember. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us, Hedwig.
Thanks,
Good luck
Hetty.
with the rest of the show.
Bye. And now it's time for the breed of the show.
So I am still in Colorado in my mind, so I wanted to choose the breed of the show to actually be my all-time favorite, which is the moose. I was fascinated by the elk last time because it was a different experience, but I have an absolute crush on moose. So, every year that we go, I always try to find them, and I've learned a lot of things about trying to find them by studying their eating habits. So we're just going to start from the top. So the moose is the largest and the heaviest of all the deer family. Most adult male moose have a very impressive palmate. I think that's how you say palmate, or open hand antler. And that's what kind of makes them very popular, because everybody knows they're just huge. Where other deer family members like the elk and regular deer have something called, I think it's called a dendritic or twig-like antler. So that's the biggest thing that makes them different, besides that they're just huge, massive, antlers. The females don't have antlers, because a lot of times people wonder, do they both have them? The females do not. But what helps these antlers grow is their diet. So they generally eat, terrestrial and aquatic type vegetation, which includes like plants and fruits and shoots from trees. And interestingly enough, they lack upper teeth, which I did not know.
Really?
They have which I did not know. It's very fascinating. They have very sharp incisors in their lower jaws and, other teeth there, but they don't have any upper teeth. But interestingly enough, their tongue and their lips are very, well, when I say tough, they're, obviously have to be tough because they eat twigs and whatnot, but their upper lip is sensitive, and it can detect the difference between like fresh, like soft shoots and hard twigs, which is kind of cool. So, but they're often seen like around the edge of like a lake because they love to eat. They just stick their heads all the way down into the water, and they eat a lot of aquatic vegetation. So they use their lips to check that out. But they also, when they do eat twigs, they use obviously their lower teeth, but their tongue and the roof of their mouth to break it up, which I thought was kind of cool. Another interesting fact about deer, which is completely unlike most deer species, is they're very solitary. So you really don't see them around any other moose. So the first year that we went to Colorado, it was right as the rut season, which is the breeding season, which is generally in the end of August into the fall. We saw a bull following a female. So obviously he was trying to impress her or get her attention. But that's pretty unusual. So normally if you see them, they're either going to be by themselves or it will be the cow with its baby. And once the cow goes into estrus, and I think they keep them on the calf will stay on their side about 18 months, but then they'll start to push them off. So it's very unusual to see them. Yeah. 18 months. I thought that was unusual. So they're very normal, like a very slow moving sedentary kind of animal, except they are outstanding swimmers. If you Google this, it's so cool. You can often see them where we go in Colorado. There's a bunch of lakes around, and they say often in the middle of the summer, you just see them swimming across the lake. And they just go on their merry way, but they're actually pretty amazing swimmers. This is a little bit of a sideline, but there has been reports of up in, I guess, Alaska and parts of Canada, where they're obviously on the shoreline, where orcas have attacked moose being in the water.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, I looked it up and it's pretty fascinating. But that's a whole other thing that I could talk about. But so they're in the water a lot, which is pretty cool. Cows will pick their mates by the size of their antlers. The bulls during rut season will do a dominant display between other bulls to get the cows, attention and heat. But often the deciding factor is going to be the size of their antlers. As a bull gets older, the size of their antlers actually decrease, which I think is interesting. So after the breeding season, they will shed their antlers to preserve for the winter. And in the spring, a new set starts. And it generally takes anywhere from 3 to 5 months, which obviously is pretty fast growing. But it's important that they really keep their nutritional diet. So if it's a year where, things aren't as plentiful, the size of their antlers are directly related to how much they are eating.
Huh.
So another really interesting fact that I found completely fascinating. So if they end up being castrated for any reason, whether it's chemical or, whatever, if they end up being castrated, the males will lose their antlers. They'll shed their antlers within 2 weeks and then immediately start growing new antlers, but they're completely misshapen and they will keep them for the rest of their life.
Really?
Isn't that bizarre?
That is odd. I would never have guessed that. Huh.
I just have never heard anything like I know. I just think it's fascinating. So
everything you wanted to know about moose and more.
I know. I just thought that was bizarre. So both male and female have something called a dewlap or a bell, which is a fold of skin underneath their chin. They don't really know what the purpose of it is for, except there is some thought that they use it for as a cooling function. I don't know if that's the case or not, but still,
it's everybody's best guess. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Males can get up, can be from anywhere to almost just under 5 feet to up to 7 feet up at the withers. They can weigh up to 1,500 pounds.
Wow.
And the females can get up to about 1,000 pounds, which again is pretty amazing. And they're, located, all over the place, obviously Colorado, Canada, Alaska, the upper part of the Rocky Mountains, Wisconsin, Michigan, Wyoming, Idaho. I mean,
I didn't know they were that. I didn't know they were that far spread.
Yeah. But the biggest thing is that we when we were talking to the rangers this past year is that, they really, like the elk, they like cooler weather, but they really don't like hot weather. And I think that's probably why they obviously are in the water all the time. So when you really want to see them, you're going to see them in the upper part of the Rockies, I think more frequently and I don't know if that means that you don't see them. I've never been in another part of Colorado and seen them, but they like the cold weather. So they're somewhat bashful in the sense that, again, they're a very solitary animal, and seeing them, it's not hard to find them, especially if you go around lake areas. But you definitely would see them first thing in the morning and at night, because when it gets hot, they go up into the mountains and get out of the hot weather. So,
they just go hide.
But really, yep, they go hide because it gets too hot for them, or they'll go swimming. But the thing about the orcas, I thought, was someone had mentioned it to me, and that's crazy. I think it was my son, and he goes, "No, I've heard that," and I was like, "It's bizarre." So if you Google it, there's a whole thing about them being attacked by orcas.
Well, there you go. Huh?
Things you never would have thought of.
Things you never would have thought of.
Real horses and real dogs are healthier, perform better, and recover more quickly on real food. That's why Biostar empowers horse and canine owners with 100% whole food nutrition, supplements, and feeding programs. Biostar products are made at their own certified non-GMO facility in Gordonsville, Virginia, using real food ingredients that are raw, freeze-dried, or dehydrated, never cooked, and are free from artificial flavors, colors, soy, corn, wheat, and molasses. The Biostar product line includes a wide range of whole food, horse and dog supplements, treats, and unique artisan poultices that embrace the ancient and traditional uses of clay and plants. Visit biostarus.com today and learn about whole foods and canine and equine nutrition so you can make the best decisions about the care and health of your horses and dogs. That's biostarus.com. Whole food nutrition the way nature intended.
Well, it's time for Coffee Clatch. And since Tigger's not here, it's a free-for-all. We're going to talk about something fluffy. I will start with what prompted this quiz. Nigel, the wannabe endurance horse, flunked out of endurance this fall because he developed anhydrosis. So there was no work in his life this fall. Because fall in Central Florida is hotter than the face of the sun. So he was vacationing, basically. So I've had to find something to do because all the shows start, all the competitions start, and I was frankly pretty bummed. So to cheer myself up, I entered him in a dressage show.
Oh, cool.
Yes. We're doing the putt-putt introductory walk-trot test because we only have very recently discovered canter. So... We're doing the putt-putt test. But I also discovered he wears a full cheek snaffle bit. And the bridles I use are all synthetic because A, it's Florida and everything molds. And B, I do endurance. So it's really easy to just clean everything by putting it in the washing machine. So that's what I have. But a full cheek, you can't put the bit keepers on these bridles because they all have buckle ends, not hook studs.
Right.
So the little bit loops will not stay on those. You have to have hook studs to get those to stay on. So I had to go out and buy a bridle.
Right.
I had to go out and buy a leather bridle special for my walk trot test.
For your one test.
I entered both walk trot tests. I'm really pushing it.
Okay.
So I went out and I bought a bridle so that I can put the bit loops on there so that they fit. So that was done. But as I was surfing about the bridle racks in all 6 of the Tack stores here in Ocala, yes, we have 6.
Wow.
It occurred to me that the bridles didn't look a lot like the bridles I looked at a couple of years ago. They all changed. They're all different. And it's almost as if now, especially in bridles, but I'm sure in other parts of the tack that we put on our horses, it changes just like fashion does in men's and women's clothing.
Yeah.
You are a professional competitor, for lack of a better word. I don't know if you are technically considered a professional. I'm sure you are.
Yes,
and you have tack for your horses. Do you have owners, or do you personally have the temptation to get that one because it's the newest and coolest looking?
It's funny. Years ago, I at any given time, but years ago, I was teaching it was like a bunch of judges, a handful of judges that were all trying to get their scores to get to Grand Prix, their gold medal scores. And I would talk to them about like what it was like judging and, whatever. And I would say most of the judges that I talked to, I was like, so tell me, what do you think about the shad belly phase or, the stuff on the back of the saddles? And most of them were like, yeah, it's distracting. Like it's just distracting. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Cause like some of it, I think if it's, some people get really blinged out and I feel like it's too much. Some coats, I like different color of coats. Like I like that type of stuff. But when it comes to the tack, my big thing has always been the comfort of the horse. And I get on, and I feel like every horse has a different type, shape head. My big thing is making sure they don't have a lot of pole pressure. Because if you think about it, you shove this thing on their face and now you're going to make them go around in a circle and hopefully they're going to do it relaxed and get a nice foamy mouth. I want to make sure their pole's comfortable. So I really tend to stick with one. I have bridles from when I was riding when I was a teenager, which I don't use because they're not nearly as comfortable. But for me, I don't change that kind of stuff up. I know that there are people out there that literally every year will get a new bridle because they like the different brow bands. I think brow bands are fun to change, but I'm very much kind of just basic. I say this and then you'll probably see me in Florida and go, well, that looks blingy. It's because it's comfortable for the horse. It's like, I am not drawn to something because it's new and improved unless I feel like it's going to be much better comfort wise for the horse. Like that's always been my number one thing. If it happens to have a little bling on it, okay. I see some things that I just like, I'm like, the last thing to me I want to do is take away from my young horse's head because it's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I want his focus to be on his big, beautiful eyes, not on
beautiful eyes.
Yeah. His eyes are so big that you can hear him blink. But yeah, it's true. You really can. He needs to have his own show. He's very funny. But so that's to me, it's just like, but there's some people out there that, some of these saddle companies that are making bridles and there is just way too much stuff on it. Like if you have a horse that has a blaze and 4 white socks, that's a lot of bling. So why would you want to add more to it?
Yeah,
in my opinion,
point.
You're like, what? So, if you have natural bling, why add artificial bling? But, unless it's the only bridle you have and that makes the horse comfortable. So I'm always for comfort. I'm always for comfort.
That's an interesting point. I never thought about that. But if you have a horse that's plain brown from top to bottom, a bridle with a couple of sparkles on it might just dress him up a bit.
Absolutely.
I never thought of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now,
well, and the other thing.
Go ahead.
What were you going to say? Well, what I was going to say is the other thing too, as a professional trainer and rider, when I'm out there coaching clients, like when sometimes people, get these saddles with all this bling and stuff, well, that draws attention to if the saddle's not sitting right or if you're not sitting right. And that's going to work against you if that's what the judge sees. Like if it's not, it's supposed to be symmetry. So if you're sitting off to the side, or it may end up making something look either worse or something that's not actually there to a judge.
Yes, it can create an optical illusion. Sure.
Yeah. So I'm always a little careful with stuff like that, unless it's a really pretty rider that really sits straight, then I'm like, go for it. But, like when people do all this bling on the boots, I think it's fun to design boots, but you got to be careful. Hopefully your leg's still and quiet because if it's not, you're so.
Yeah. And, that what I was going to say just disappeared in my brain about 2 seconds ago. Anyhow, forever and ever, it seems that the square white saddle pad or the square black saddle pad has been the norm. Is that still the case?
Yes, I think one thing that I'm starting to like, there's a company that I like to buy stuff from. It's in Britain, and it's called Premier Equine, and they have it's a fleece pad, but it's a vented, like a very vented saddle pad, so it's not square, so it has a little bit of an off shape to it, and I like that because it also makes it cooler for the horses, because obviously, being in Texas in the summer, it can get hot, and being in Florida, actually, quite frankly, it gets hot. It was hot in Virginia, so I'm always again about the horse's comfort. So. Yes, a lot of people still do those square pads very simply like that. I like these. They're a little bit of a shape. I think Mattis makes one that's shaped kind of like that too. But I like to make sure that if I have a little less fabric on the horse so that they're comfortable, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And that's something else too. I think that the size and the relationship of sizes between horse and rider. If you have a relatively small bodied horse, you don't want a whole lot of saddle pad on there because it makes the horse look even smaller.
Correct. Oh, and it absolutely, that's so funny, but they do have, like Dover and some of these online places will have saddle pads that are shorter from the front to the back because like a lot of these Iberian horses they're smaller and their backs are smaller. And so
you put a regular dressage pad on them and they look like they're wearing a turnout sheet.
Absolutely. And that also becomes a distraction if you're showing. So it's really important to get the right size, which is, when you have smaller horse, and there's this whole small horse division thing that you can do through USEF, which is great. But, I was helping a couple people with small horses and I was like, yeah, you got to fix the saddle pad. It cannot be that big. So some people just get like pony saddle pads. Like there's pony polo wraps, that aren't as long. They do the same thing with the saddle pads.
Interesting how that is. So one of the things I think about, it's not going to make a difference. I'm doing the walk trot introductory test. We're going to spend most of our time snorting. So all of this other stuff is irrelevant. If I can manage to get down the center line and do the transitions within 6 meters of where the letters are, I'm going to be so excited. But my horse has keep your expectations low. We're gonna go for a endurance warm up before our dressage test, which means we're gonna go out and trot for 5 miles before we do our test.
Okay,
that's gonna be our warm up.
Good warm up.
That's gonna be our warm up.
Good plan.
He has a narrow blaze the whole way down his face, from right up under his forelock right down to his lips, but just above his cheekbones, it veers slightly off to the side, and it keeps going off to the side. So when you stand in front of my horse, he always looks like he's tilting his head because of where the blaze is. And I've got this thing in my brain. It's like every time I go down the center line, all the judges are going to go, look, horse's head's crooked every time he goes down the thing, because that's what it looks like.
Well, it's funny because that's a really common thing. So that would be another reason why you wouldn't want to draw attention
to his face
with Tack, because that is a thing. That absolutely is a thing. That's kind of funny. It's sort of like, I'm sure you've heard before. People used to say, don't buy a horse with uneven socks, because the one sock leg is going to look like it's moving more forward than the black leg or the brown leg. I think that, that's not as much of a thing as when you have, because I have a big black horse that if I don't have him properly in the outside rein, he absolutely looks like he's tilting.
There you go.
And so I feel your pain, but I have a very plain black bridle on him. So it doesn't like draw anything to his.
When I first got him, it didn't register. When I first got him, I was just sure he was that crooked, because he had been a vacationer most of his life and he was crooked in a lot of places. So I would watch him walk towards me and I'm going, oh gosh, is he messed up? Oh, what a hot mess he is. And then he was standing perfectly still in the cross ties one day and I went, well, what am I thinking? He's not really crooked. It's the blaze on his face that's crooked.
Oh, that is so
Because I looked at his ears instead of his white blaze down the middle of his face. Wait a minute, his ears are straight. If I look at his cheeks, those are straight. It's the hair. It's the white hair.
it's the hair. But, a good judge is going to look at their ears and not look at
precisely. And the ears are going to be going like radar, and they're going to be doing lots of exciting things. So he won't even notice what the rest of the horse is doing.
Yeah, because you're going to be going too fast.
He's going to be going too fast, or he will be running for the hills because Nigel will come down the center line and go, oh, look, I need to knock that over. And it could be that too. Just once again, just go for your geometry. I'm going to ride the horse that I have in the moment, and we're just going to have a high old time.
And enjoy yourself. That's the best thing. Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. What are you doing
this weekend? It's going to be on the 24th of October. It will be Nigel's first ever in his life horse show, because the only competitions he's ever done have been endurance rides, which obviously don't involve any kind of an arena or anything vaguely resembling an arena. And I'm going to hopefully take him out to the horse show venues right down the street. It's at the Florida Horse Park, so it's only about 20 minutes away. Hopefully I'm going to take him down there and school him in one of the arenas before the horse show, because he's never been ridden on footing of any kind.
Okay.
And they have the fancy Wardley Martin or something footing in these giant arenas in the middle of the property. And I'm not too sure what he's going to think about the footing. So I'm going to hopefully
Well,
take him down there.
just a couple things to think about. So when you go, and even this week when you're working at home, make sure he rides towards something, because when you go down center lane, even though you walk in, you want to ride him towards something so he gets used to that and tell him what a good boy is. And then when you get in the arena, you want to make sure you go by the judge's booth, both eyes.
Both sides.
So like go by it and around and go by it again, so that, because they see things different out of both eyes. So that's,
and I'm not sure. I've not gone to any of these shows before. I've kind of looked at them at a distance from at the other side of the park where I ride. I don't know if they have the judges in a car or in one of those little dining fly screen tents, or I don't know what we're going to come up with, but we're going to be there.
Yeah, and you're going to, and so just be prepared, man.
Be prepared. I'm going to put a little extra stickum on my boots. Mm-hmm. Do dressage riders use saddle tight and stickum and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Some do. And I guess they still do. I haven't seen it in years, but I'm sure they still do. But I know that, like, when you're teaching people, when I'd be trying to help people with the sitting trot when they were first doing it, it was a great thing to use. But yeah, no, some people, and it's funny, for some reason at some point I thought like it was outlawed, but I don't know if that's actually true or not. Yeah,
that's a good question. I know it's perfectly legal in other things that I do, and I'm sure it is in dressage, but yeah. And I did discover the first time I ever used it with my synthetic saddle, a little sit tight tacky spray goes a long way with synthetic tack. It's much grippier than leather tack.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm just staying right there and I'm not moving. So yeah, make sure when you get in the saddle, you want to be exactly where you want to stay.
Yes, because it's like, I'm sorry, I sat crooked and I'm stuck now.
Oh, that would not be.
I put my left leg on him and couldn't get it back off.
That's when you go, it's the equipment. It's not me. It's the equipment.
It's not me. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, that's very interesting. So obviously, like me, you have a very workmanlike point of view when it comes to your horse's accoutrements. Now, when you compete, hoof polish or not?
No, well, not at the lower levels. When I get up to FEI, yes, I just make it a little bit, and I don't use like a hoof polish that, I forgot what they used to call the absorbium, but I'll just use like an oil to make their feet
okay,
look
so you use a shiny oil-based hoof conditioner versus the dry kind that looks like fingernail polish for a human.
Correct.
Got it.
Because I just know that's not great long-term, so I just don't do it.
Got it. Something I discovered because my horse, we're veering way off topic here, but I couldn't help myself.
I know.
My horse wears glue-on shoes. And the part of the finishing process after the shoe is on and the glue is cured, which only takes 10 minutes. The last thing that the farrier does is take super glue and she squeezes it onto the hoof wall and smooshes it all around to help seal everything, to help the glue stay on for the required 4.5 weeks, even though it's, sometimes really swampy here in Florida. And it's very effective, but one of the side effects is it's really shiny and it stays that way.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of farriers here use the super glue on the hoof wall when they're finished, even when they use regular nail-on shoes. It seems to be pretty popular.
Yeah, I've known them to do that actually over the nail holes, so I've heard of that too.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. Funny. So I thought that, hey, look at that bonus! It makes his feet shiny because because he wears glue-ons. I can't put hoof conditioner on his feet because
the oil would break it down. Yeah,
you got it funny. Exactly. So that's interesting. So when you get up there to the top levels, then you're going to polish them up because you have to be at your shiny best because you're going to be on USET TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also you have more than one judge. So when you're doing like a CDI or you often have more than one judge, so there's going to be more eyes looking at you.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
There's that.
Well, thanks a lot, Pati, for hanging out with me. Tiggerless.
Nope. Tiggerless. We did fine. I don't think she'll come back and say, wow, what were you talking about? I think we did good.
We did good.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks to our sponsor, Biostar US. You can find them online at biostarus.com.
Get the Horse Radio Network phone app on iOS or Android by searching for Horse Radio Network in the App Store. It's free and easy to use.
For details about today's show, go to healthycrittersradio.com, where you can find links, photos, and more information about our guests.
As always, we love your feedback. Please follow us on Facebook under Healthy Critters Radio.
Be sure to visit all the great shows on Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Love your dog.
Hug your horse.
Feed your chickens.
Clean your litter box.
Dance with your goat.
Slither with your snakes.
Howl at the moon.
Hang with your hamster.
Party with your parrot.
Waddle with your walrus.
Outwit your otter.
Cuddle your cows.
Rap with your raptor.
Go chipping with your chipmunks.
Forgive your fox.
While hedging your hog.
We also recommend that you rack with your raccoon.
Gyrate with your giraffe.
Meditate with a meerkat.
Uber with your orangutan.
Facebook with your flamingo.
Ponder with your panda.
Walk with your Wookiee.
Yawn with your yak.
Twitter with your toucan.
Go raining with your reindeer.
Dropbox your dragon.